Celebrity Speaking Out, a video to show how the media, and in particular celebrities on the TV, interact with representations of mental health. Media and mental health. The media encompasses all communicative mediums such as radio, TV, advertising, magazines and more. It is a very powerful tool which has the ability to affect a vast amount of people. The way mental health issues are perceived by people is influenced by the way they are portrayed in the media, and it is therefore important with regards to mental health that media takes a level of responsibility with how it presents mental illness and how it chooses to influence the general public. However, it is also a useful tool. It is the fastest and most effective way of making change. If used correctly, it can be very helpful in removing stigmas around the way mental health is perceived. However, if media influence goes wrong and misrepresents mental health conditions, it could be very damaging to perceptions of mental health and will therefore reinforce the social taboos surrounding mental health. With around 1 in 4 people suffering a mental health condition, it is likely that everybody knows someone suffering with a condition, and therefore it is vital that people get access to the right information and the accurate representation. So, how do celebrities fit into our discussion on mental health in the media? With a craze around knowing the inner workings of celebrity lives, the media exposes a wide range of stories on the public and private lives of celebrities. Mental health is a particular fascination for us, and therefore demand for TV and magazines to cover stories of celebrities with erratic behaviour, drug problems and public meltdowns is huge. Over the last few years in particular, many examples of celebrities hitting the tabloids for all the wrong reasons have emerged. The very public incident of Britney Spears shaving her head after a mental breakdown was plastered all over the news and is still mentioned even now. Charlie Sheen, the American actor best known for his role in 2.5 Men, suffered a very public meltdown after being dismissed from the show in 2011. Similarly, Kerry Katona has been in and out of tabloids for a variety of stories regarding her mental health and drug addiction. Media portrayals have often been very harsh and unrelenting. Here is an example of 2 videos, one showing her in an interview with Good Morning and another showing the Bo Selector parody.
You just got him. Fine, I've been happier, I swear to God.
Good.
Health-wise, I'm fine. But like I said before, I am on medication, and that's probably what it is.
In the early hours of the morning before, you'd had a great deal to drink.
I think it might be on holiday in Spain, or a 28-year-old woman for him.
No, I know.
I'm allowed to go out and have a drink.
Of course you are, but what I'm saying is, in the interview itself, it started to say things like, you went to get ready with a bottle of champagne, and once that had gone, then you were feeling better for the photo shoot, and that they wanted you to jump in the pool, and you were tempted once they said you have a shot first and a champagne afterwards. And I thought,
I don't understand what you're trying to say.
Well, I suppose, and I'm going to be frank with you here, that a lot of people say when you have an addictive personality and they get rid of one addiction, it's replaced with another.
Which is, what addiction would that be?
Is it alcohol?
No, not at all. I'm on holiday in Spain. You know, I'm allowed to have a drink, can't I?
Yes, you are.
Of course.
So, would that mean I'm an alcoholic?
No.
Oh, right. Sorry, because I thought that was...
No. I just thought, because it's such a friendly magazine to you, but it did keep putting those references in.
I was on holiday in Spain and they're offering me a drink.
All we're doing is...
Oh, so I thought you were trying to imply that I was an alcoholic now.
No.
Oh, right,
We wouldn't imply anything at all.
Oh,
all we're merely pointing out and doing is, I think, you know, the concern of someone who's very, very different to the person we knew a few years ago. Now, if it is, as you say, oh no, you are, Kerry, big difference. But if it is purely, you know, sort of medication, and you are up and you are happy, and mind, body, and spirit are all completely controlled, then that's fine. End of story.
Do bear off!
Chicken strips, £1.
How has it been since you've had the operation?
John rings, £1.
You don't seem yourself. We know you, and you don't seem yourself. Your speech seems a bit slurred. What's wrong with you, Kerry? What is it?
Chicken dinosaurs, £1.
The phone will be ringing upstairs. People are asking, are you okay? Look, you look like you're pissed off your tits.
Since then, it seems that the public are aware of mental illness, and may be some way towards being accepting of it as long as it is a private affair. For example, memoirs and retrospective TV appearances describing a personal and very much private experience of dealing with a mental illness are often widely accepted. However, it is when mental illnesses spill over from the parallel world of the mentally ill to the public sphere but the media and the general public are disgusted and brutal in their coverage of this person's state of mind. This way of covering people's mental health experiences is massively reductive to the campaigns that aim to normalise mental health. The media chooses to focus a lot of attention on these celebrities, but chooses to do so in all of the wrong ways. It is only recently that certain documentaries have been released attempting to expose the private lives of celebrities living with mental illnesses, attempting to bring them to the public attention respectfully. My first example is Stephen Fry's The Life of a Manic Depressive, aired on the BBC in 2006.
I was starring in a new play in this theatre in the West End. After just 3 performances, I walked out. In the early hours of the next morning, I came down from my flat in central London to this lane. I went into my garage, sealed the door with a duvet I brought, and got into my car.
Sat there for at least, I think, 2 hours in the car, my hands on the ignition key. It was a suicide attempt, not a cry for help.
I drove to the south coast and took a ferry to Europe.
I just knew I couldn't be at home. I couldn't be in London. I couldn't be in England. I really believed that I would never come back to England. Runaway Stephen Fry broke his silence last night to reveal the torture he's been suffering. They all are worried that I've committed suicide. That's the awful thing.
But after a week, I secretly returned to England to this hospital and to a doctor telling me that I was bipolar. I'd never heard the word before, but for the first time, at the age of 37, I had a diagnosis that explained the massive highs and miserable lows I've lived with all my life.
There's no doubt that I do have extremes of mood that are greater than just about anybody else I know.
The psychiatrist in the hospital recommended I take a long break. I came here to America, and for months I saw a therapist and walked up and down this beach. My mind was full of questions. Am I now mad? How have I got this illness? Could it have been prevented? Can I be cured of it? Since then, I've discovered just how serious it is to have bipolarity, or manic depression, as it's also called. 4 million others in the UK have it, and many of the seriously ill end up killing themselves. So I've decided to speak out about my mental illness, and it is a mental illness. I want to talk to others who have it about what triggered it in them and how it took over their lives. And I want to find out answers to what still worries me. Was I diagnosed correctly? And am I getting better or worse?
The fact that he and other celebrities have one thing in their favour, money, which offers him a level of material comfort and security that he knows couldn't be afforded to all others living with the same condition. Therefore, and knowing that the average person cannot identify with the celebrity perspective, Fry visits people with bipolar from around the country. He chooses a variety of manic depressives whose conditions affect them in varying ways so as to present the illness as the complex and highly individual condition that it is. He attempts to make the secret life of the mentally ill a public sphere of examination, and by broadcasting on the BBC, invites the wider public to engage with this illness. What was particularly commendable about the documentary was that it didn't offer any sort of solution as such for manic depression. There was no narrative of beating or overcoming the illness that is so present in lots of disability discourse. It was simply an exposé behind the scenes of those with bipolar for the benefit of both those with and those without the illness. In contention to Fry's documentary was another documentary of the same genre, produced this year for Channel 4 mental health series entitled 4 Goes Mad. Ruby Wax's Mad Confessions. After talking about her own personal experiences with clinical depression, the premise of the TV show is to appeal to the general public for people to feature on the show and confess their mental illnesses to their employer. This is in order to break down the stigma of the way we think about mental illnesses. She asks for people who are successful in their jobs and also suffer with a mental illness to come forward. However, the fact is that people suffering from a mental illness make up a high percentage of those living on sickness and unemployment benefits. her show is not representative of the norm of those affected with a mental health disorder. Many watchers who are afflicted with a mental health disorder will not be able to work or be successful in the terms that Ruby has laid out. Although Wax gives an insight into people's lives with a mental illness, it may have been harmful in perhaps suggesting that if someone tries hard enough they can deal with having a mental illness and be successful in a career. It may add fuel to the fire for people who already see mental health as an excuse not to work, rather than the debilitating illness that it can be. Again, this continues the discourse that as long as somebody's mental state doesn't impede upon their public life, then it is acceptable. As long as a mental illness does not affect somebody's capacity to work and be successful, then it is not a problem. The media also chooses to represent illnesses that are somewhat in vogue at the current time. Depression, bipolar and OCD are all mental illnesses that are relatively acceptable to talk about in the public eye, especially if you are a celebrity. However, with a huge list of other mental illnesses such as Tourette's and schizophrenia being either underrepresented or misrepresented, the media is currently only scratching the surface in terms of accurately representing mental health as a whole. Only a small proportion of mental illnesses are being discussed. Tourette's, for example, is still often very over-sensationalised in TV documentaries, especially on Channel 4. The TV shows The Town That Caught Tourette's and The Undateables just serve to show how Tourette's is a leading example of misrepresented mental conditions. In fact, many viewers are invited to watch these programmes to laugh at the verbal outbursts, when in fact only a small minority of those with Tourette's have any form of verbal tic. Channel 4 has increasingly moved towards a reputation for being distasteful and sensationalising very serious issues, mental health being just one of them. The discourse is that mental health problems are abnormal and freakish and are to be presented purely for our entertainment. Do Channel 4 care about attracting viewers due to mental health awareness, or purely to boost their own viewer ratings? It does seem to be the latter. They forfeit the fair representation of the illness in favour of their profits. So, where do we go from here? And what should we hope for the future? Currently, we're only representing one tiny part of the entirety of mental health. But there is still a long way to go in breaking down the stigma attached to mental health. Celebrities have a huge amount of influence to change perceptions of mental health if channeled in the right way. The media should take more responsibility for its huge influence and capacity to reach people everywhere. Once they realise their responsibility towards tackling issues of mental health and disability in general, then they will begin to represent mental illness in a respectable and positive way. Also, it is important to stress how reductive it is to constantly portray mental illness as a problem to be overcome. This can be extended as far as all disabilities and even illnesses such as cancer. Sometimes it is impossible to be cured, and it is very much a way of life for a lot of people. In no way should people be made to feel as though they have some fundamental flaw because they cannot just overcome their condition. Thanks for taking the time to watch. If you'd like to read more on this subject, then you can visit my blog on the address below.